All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome in. Welcome in, everybody. As folks are jumping in, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat, I always enjoy that. Maybe just say who you are and where you're tuning in from tonight. Well, let's just confirm that our chat is working as it should be. All right, good evening, everyone. If you're just jumping on, if you can, there we go. Yay, the chat's working correctly. Excellent. Always the most fraught part of every Zoom webinar I run for some reason is the default chat settings. All right, good evening. Good to see a lot of folks tuning in from Southern Nevada on a warm and windy evening. Not complaining. All right, this is great. I'm glad to see so many people jumping in. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm sure folks will still roll in, but just want to say how much we appreciate everyone tuning in and sharing your Tuesday evening with us. And with that, I'll turn over to Ashley if you want to kind of open us up tonight.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, good evening, everyone. My name's Ashley Lee. I'm the president of the Amargosa Conservancy. And I just want to start off by celebrating a victory. With the BLM has officially initiated the mineral withdrawal process to protect the Amargosa Valley and Ash Meadows. It's a crucial step in safeguarding this region. So tonight we'll walk through how we got to this point, explore what a mineral withdrawal is, why it matters, discuss what a segregation is and what it means in this context. We'll also talk about upcoming public meeting on February 27th. And this town hall is an opportunity for us to all engage in this important conversation. Your participation and support will continue to help drive this effort forward. And so thank you so much for coming tonight. And I'll be kind of moderating. I'll be putting links in the comment section. So please keep your monitors open for action steps and some other things to use as resources. And thanks again.
All right, and before we dive straight into it, let's make sure everyone knows who they're looking at on the screen right now. I'll start. I'm Mason Vale, Executive Director of Amargosa Conservancy. I've been Executive Director for 3 years now, and I live in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I have the marvelous job of working with these people and others that you're not seeing on the screen. And so if we just want to do a round of introductions. Naomi, how about you go next?
Sure. Thank you, Mason. Hi, everyone. I'm Naomi Fraga, and I am the treasurer on the Amargosa Conservancy. I'm also the director of conservation programs at the California Botanic Garden. I'm a botanist, and I've been studying the plants of the Amargosa River region since 2005. I've been on the Amargosa Conservancy board since 2016.
How about you, Patrick?
Thanks, Mason. Hello, I'm Patrick Donnelly. I'm the Great Basin Director at the Center for Biological Diversity, and I'm lucky enough to be the Vice President of the Board of Directors of the Amargosa Conservancy. I live in Shoshone, California, right along the Amargosa River, and working with Mason and the folks on this Zoom on the AC board is one of the best parts of my career. So really happy to be a part of this.
All right, and I'm very excited to turn over to a face you maybe haven't seen in a previous town hall. How about you go, Louise?
Thanks, Mason. I'm Louise Mathias. I am the newest addition to the board. I've been on the board for almost a year now. I live in Joshua Tree. I've lived out here for about 15 years. Frequent visits to Tacopa and Ash Meadows and all of that has my heart. So very pleased to be part of the group. And I'm also a writer, and then I own a consulting firm that works with nonprofits across the country on grant writing, sustainability planning, strategic planning, and things of that nature.
We're just so very excited that Louise is part of our board. Took us some time to lure her in, but actually wasn't that hard. Turns out she loves the Amargosa and is just bringing a great new perspective and skill set to the board. So that is who we are. You're going to be hearing from each of us on tonight's town hall. Let's go ahead and dive into it. I'm going to share my screen with way too many tabs open. All right, as Ashley laid out, tonight is really about a lot of things. Mostly it is to partially celebrate a victory we attained, a milestone in this campaign that I know many of you have been following for a little over the last year. There's going to be a lot of new terms maybe thrown at you, especially in these early minutes, but that's part of why we're doing this is we're going to break these things down. It's going to sound a little bit wonky and technical, but that's what we're here to do, is really to talk about this incredibly important fight we've been waging for the future of Ash Meadows and the Amargosa River. Talk about the journey that it took to get here, what this moment is, what comes next, and most importantly, how you all can help us, because we need an awful lot of help from every person that knows and loves this part of the Mojave Desert. So here's just a breakdown of what, we're Amargosa Conservancy. Hopefully you got here because you already know about us, but in case not, we are a small conservation nonprofit working in the Amargosa River. We are in our 21st year of action in this watershed. And boy, I tell you, in the last 3, it's been an extremely eventful chapter in this quiet little river. So our mission is to work towards a sustainable future for the Amargosa through science, stewardship, and advocacy. A rundown of today's talk. We're going to talk about this milestone victory, what it is, what it means to initiate a mineral withdrawal process for these lands. As I said, how do we get here? What is this action? Why does it matter? What is segregation? And then to really focus on an upcoming opportunity in February at the end of this month that the communities, especially you as locals, can help us win. That was my sidekick summit on the couch behind me. So what's this victory we're talking about? Well, on January 14th, just a few weeks back, there was some breaking news. This was the very last week of the Biden administration. There was a news announced that the Secretary of the Interior had initiated a mineral withdrawal process for the Amargosa Valley as a means to enhance protections for Ash Meadows. This was a super significant win. It came right at the very last minute of that administration. It's basically kind of a buzzer beater in some ways. This is a milestone that was attained after about 13 months of really dedicated, organized effort to basically call on leaders in the Biden administration to get this process in motion, because we felt like it couldn't wait for reasons we'll get into. So this was the news that broke just a few weeks ago. It was in some ways probably overshadowed by all the other news of that week with an outgoing administration and a new one coming in. We're going to talk about this action and how straddling this administrative line creates some unique challenges and maybe some opportunities as well. But this was the big breaking news. And before we get into it, I don't want to brush past this. Our default mode is to think about the next step, the next part of the work. But this was a huge win. And I know a lot of you in this Zoom room helped us get here. And I don't want us to brush past that. So just a quick round of applause to all of you, anyone that submitted comments, signed petitions, donated to the Amargosa Conservancy. All of it added up to this kind of monumental milestone. So we are truly very excited and grateful to be here. It's an amazing opportunity we've been given. And now the work begins to try to see this action all the way through. So what does that look like? Well, in detail, what this action was is the Secretary of the Interior, through her authority, this was Deb Haaland, initiated a process to consider withdrawing about 309,000 acres of public land in the Amargosa Valley in Nevada from new mining development. And this was to protect the communities of this region and the wildlife that depend on groundwater of the Amargosa River for everything. And so this was a monumental decision from the outgoing secretary. This is the area that is being considered here. This is depicting about that 309,000 acres of public land. Just to kind of orient everyone, you can kind of see the Nevada-California state line here. Everything on the bottom left part of the screen, that's California, that's Death Valley National Park. Everything to the right of that dividing line is Nevada. And of course, the Amargosa is a bi-state system. So even though I just want to say off the bat, we're going to address this a few times, even though this is a Nevada-specific action, it's only public lands in Nevada, it really is a bi-state landscape scale action. This is about safeguarding this water resource that is relied upon by so many different communities, and that's why I think this action's gotten the attention that it has. So we're going to talk about that, but this is sort of orienting us to the area. This kind of green blocky section in the map, that is Ash Meadows. It's about 23,000 acres depicted there. The remainder is BLM lands, and then we have the private lands of the township of Amargosa Valley as well. That's those little purple blocks over to in the western portion of the area. So again, 309,000 acres of public land being considered. Let's talk about how we got here, because it's really hard to understand this action and what it means and what it's for unless we understand why we asked for it at all. And so to do that, I am actually going to ask Naomi first to just kind of remind us what Ash Meadows is and why it's important. And so Naomi, if you want to speak to your working professional, personal relationship with Ash Meadows and why we should all care about it.
Sure, yeah, thanks, Mason. And so I've seen in the chat that we have a lot of people from Southern Nevada living within the Amargosa River Basin. So you probably know this place very intimately and understand that water is life in the desert. And this incredible oasis sustains incredibly diverse life. So Ash Meadows National Wildlife Refuge is really a centerpiece in the Amargosa River Basin. The Amargosa River as a whole is incredibly unique and sustains incredible biodiversity with over 60 different species that only occur in the Amargosa and nowhere else. So that's across the whole river system. And then when we look specifically at Ash Meadows has itself over about 26 species that are only found in Ash Meadows and nowhere else, and 12 of these are protected under the Endangered Species Act. And so having this legal protection has been really vital and instrumental in this fight to save Ash Meadows and understanding how intimately the water is tied to these river systems, to these spring hydrological systems. And so you've seen in some of the pictures that Mason has shown this turquoise blue water at these isolated springs and seeps. And, we have here pictured here the Ash Meadows lady's tresses, which is a species I study, as well as a spring-loving centauri. You have fishes, amphibians, and mammals, and invertebrates, just a great diversity of life tied to this region, specifically because of the water. And this is this wetland is so important internationally that it's been given the designation of a Ramsar wetland, which is designated, giving it recognizing its significance across the globe as a tremendous wetland. And so this is just a very vibrant ecosystem. You can see here the Amargosa River, just this vibrant green and all the life that is attracted to it. And so that's all the biodiversity, but also the human communities that have lived in this region from time immemorial. And so just a really incredible region. I want to point out this little green plant here at the bottom is a species I study called the Amargosa nidawort, which is federally listed as endangered. And really it's the groundwater, this ancient groundwater that sustains this plant. And so having so many endangered species present in this region is just really provided a compelling also legal argument, for the protection of this place. And so it's just quite special. And if you haven't been there, obviously it is a place to see tremendous biodiversity, birds, and so forth.
Yeah, thanks, Naomi. I mean, as she said, a lot of you are from Southern Nevada and the region. I think to know Ash Meadows is to love Ash Meadows. I mean, it's such a special place with such a special role in this larger Amargosa ecosystem. And so, I think it's always important to start there. Like, this started with a incredibly important place, an irreplaceable wetland system, with extraordinary biodiversity. That's where this started. And of course, it also started with a very acute threat to the safety of that system. And so I wonder if my slideshow will cooperate here. There we go. If Patrick, if you want to take it from here and just talk about like this big alarm bell that we caught and why we had to spring into action in the way that we did back in the summer of 2023.
Yeah, so the lithium boom is on in Nevada. There are over 100 lithium projects proposed across the state, and this was especially intensive during 2022 when the price of lithium had spiked to extremely high levels and new projects were popping up all over the state. And one that popped up was from a company called Rover Metals, a Canadian mining company. And calling it a mining company is sort of a overstatement of fact. It's really more just a guy and some consultants. So Rover Metals had proposed a lithium project directly adjacent to Ash Meadows. And our GIS people, once we got wind of the whole thing, threw together this map showing the proximity of these proposed exploratory drill holes that Rover was going to drill, showing that proximity to Ash Meadows and especially to some of the springs that are really why Ash Meadows is such a special place. And, the southernmost drill holes came within 2,000 feet of Fairbanks Spring, which is a iconic spring at Ash Meadows and home to numerous endangered species. And so, this really just was a 5-alarm fire for us. We were able to see this phenomenon happening all over the Great Basin, these projects turning up, but to have one turn up this close to home and this close to just one of the most important resources in Nevada was very shocking, I think, and was very catalyzing. So, we kind of launched into action as we do. BLM had authorized this action without doing any environmental analysis. There's sort of mechanisms under the mining law that allow introductory exploratory drilling programs like this one to occur without environmental analysis. However, there can't be any extenuating circumstances. And in this case, we have a very clearly extenuating circumstance of a national wildlife refuge and 12 species listed under the Endangered Species Act occurring within a couple thousand feet of the drill project. And so our attorneys felt very clear that this project did not qualify for the kind of exemption that small projects get because of the proximity to Ash Meadows and those endangered species. And so we filed suit. And we filed a lawsuit with the Amargosa Conservancy and the Center for Biological Diversity, as well as we were represented by Roger Flynn with the Western Mining Action Project. And, this was a fairly urgent lawsuit. As far as we knew, the drill rigs were on their way. That was the word we had, was they were going to show up as soon as the following week after we filed our lawsuit. And so very shortly thereafter, we filed what's known as a preliminary injunction, which is an attempt to stop what was happening on an urgent basis while the case has time to be heard in front of a judge. The evidence that we presented in the lawsuit and in our motion for preliminary injunction was so compelling and simultaneous to that lawsuit, the hue and the cry was coming up from the community. And the Amargosa Conservancy, Mason was really leading the charge and mobilizing the community. Many community members on this Zoom this evening, wrote letters. There was an emergency meeting in Amargosa Valley. The Timbisha Shoshone tribe wrote a letter. There was just a widespread and very rapid outcry from the community. And so that confluence of factors, the community outcry and the kind of overwhelming legal evidence that this authorization was not legal, that confluence of factors really forced BLM's hand to withdraw their approval of the exploration project. And to tell you how urgent they did this was for them, we filed our motion for preliminary injunction, and the next night at 10 o'clock at night, the district manager signed the order withdrawing the approval. And let me tell you, BLM does not usually sign orders at 10 o'clock at night. So that was definitely a indication of the kind of loaded nature of the whole proceeding and how urgent it was. I think had the extreme urgency everyone felt on all sides of this thing, because Ash Meadows was at stake. And so anyway, we all felt really powerful and strongly about how well that went, and how the community and the law kind of worked together in that case. And but what became clear thereafter was that Rover wasn't done quite yet.
Yeah, and I'll just kind of help segue here, Pratcher, too. Like, obviously, we were deeply concerned just about this drilling project. If something were to go wrong in this borehole drilling, and they were to, the company had acknowledged they were going to hit groundwater in every single one of those boreholes. Well, it just takes one bad drill, one bad borehole to completely change how groundwater might be flowing into the refuge, and that alone could have been catastrophic. But that was just the appetizer. The entree was what Rover was advertising, which is they had visions for a large open pit mining proposal to follow that drilling. This was the big threat. It was what happens if they are successful in drilling, and they either this company or another takes the plan to the next step and tries to actually extract this ore through an open pit mine. And Patrick, I don't know if you want to just talk about sort of that prospect and then the science that we commissioned to sort of like show how just existential this would be for the refuge.
Yeah, well, certainly we worked hand in hand with hydrologist Andy Zidane, who's been working in the Amargosa for a couple of decades. And so he wrote a series of a memo for the initial litigation, referring to other instances where uncontrolled artesian flow had been hit in the Amargosa, which resulted in other springs drawing down. And then later on, Andy wrote a memo commissioned by the Nature Conservancy, which examined the impacts of open pit mining, so actual development of a mine, not just exploratory drilling, in the area depicted in this map. And the results of what was found were really very chilling, showing widespread drawdown of springs and groundwater levels across Ash Meadows, including over to Devil's Hole and other springs of focal concern at Ash Meadows. And so, the science really backed up the assertion that, mining in this area could really destroy Ash Meadows.
So, all this was coming together. We were, basically the initial drilling proposal was this lightning bolt that woke us all up to this new fear of like, what would happen if Rover or any other company was successful in actually bringing a mine to, through permitting, that would entail this level of groundwater pumping. Meanwhile, so we were paying attention at every step to what Rover Metals would do next. The BLM, as part of their decision to rescind approval for that initial project, said, well, come back to us with a more advanced, sophisticated plan. That's going to have to go through an actual environmental review process. And so while we're waiting around for that, the mining company went out and did something strange and also, as Patrick said, very chilling. They, in April of 2024, I got a call from Carolyn Allen, who I think is on this Zoom call tonight. Residents of her town in Amargosa Valley had woken up one day and looked across the street, and they saw new claims staked on BLM land. They went out, looked at those claims, and noticed that, oh, these also belonged to Rover Critical Minerals. So after our effort to pause their drilling project north of Ash Meadows, they moved west and found a new claim area. We think it's about 400 claims, another 8,000 acres of public land that apparently they had interest in. And this was really, it felt like an escalation in this fight. It felt like they were sort of trying to assert, their dominance in this landscape and that they weren't going to go away. In fact, they sent communications to their investors saying, we're doubling down on our lithium projects in Amargosa Valley. So instead of doing the common sense thing, which was walk away from this, they expanded their interest. And this was just extraordinarily scary, especially for the citizens of this town. And just to kind of show, pardon us for one hydrographic map here, to show how bad an area this also would have been. They're looking at this state line section between Nevada and California, right on that eastern shoulder of Death Valley National Park. And so in a similar case, had they been successful in drilling or mining there, the impacts would not only affect the local community in Amargosa Valley, but springs in the eastern portion of Death Valley National Park derive flow from this part of the aquifer. And similarly, the community at Furnace Creek, which is the reservation lands of the Timbisha-Shoshone tribe, their groundwater also comes from that aquifer. So Rover was trading one terrible project site for another terrible project site. And this was just simply unacceptable and further demonstrated the need for something to change here. Clearly this is not a appropriate or safe use of these public lands, given how many communities of life are dependent on that groundwater for their survival. This got picked up by local media, especially, a lot of the local residents. This is Judy Faber, spoke out about this and basically said, look, like, our water is under threat here. Someone has to do something. So the level of urgency just escalated. And all of that came together in this push for a mineral withdrawal. So now we're going to break down kind of what that is and what it means. By default, BLM lands are open to multiple uses. They're open to recreation, oil and gas leasing, renewable energy, and of course, mining. And so a mineral withdrawal is kind of almost a misnomer. It's kind of the opposite of what it actually is. It's a process through which a specific area of public land is temporarily or permanently withdrawn from new mining claims, meaning it hits the pause button saying no new mining claims can be staked in this area. It also does entail maybe a higher standard of review for existing claims to be developed. I mean, basically, it's just saying, look, this is an exceptional area due to the values, environmental, cultural, recreational, and for that reason, we're going to hit a pause button on new mining claims. So this came together through a lot of conversations with local communities. We wanted to make sure this was in alignment with everyone's land priorities. And it felt like this was the first best step towards safeguarding this region. It's something that we felt would buy us time as a community to talk about longer term solutions. But for the time being, we needed that pause button as fast as possible to prevent Rover or any other reckless mining company from proposing and attempting dangerous drilling projects. So that's where this came together as a mineral withdrawal. As I said, these are implemented to safeguard special irreplaceable values. And we clearly felt like we had that with Ash Meadows, with Death Valley National Park, with these cultural landscapes that were important to numerous tribes. And the ultimate goal was to preserve that groundwater. That was priority number one. So that was the vision. Meanwhile, we're watching Rover. We're seeing this escalation in new claims. It was a really fraught period in spring of 2024. But ultimately, as a result of every community leader coming together and agreeing this was a common sense decision that totally aligned with their needs, we were able to build a coalition that is pretty remarkable, and we did it pretty quickly. I mean, we only had about 13 months or so, we thought, with the Biden administration at the time to get this action done through an administrative decision. And so it's really, I think this screen is really powerful for me just to see these different groups that historically, honestly, have never really worked directly together on an initiative like this. Every single one of these entities immediately fell in and said, absolutely. And these communities became some of the best, most vocal champions of this action, as they should have been. This is really about their futures, in addition to safeguarding Ash Meadows and Death Valley, these places that are beloved by people across the West and around the world. So these are all the Timbisha-Shoshone tribe, Nye County, Amargosa Valley, Beatty, a huge consortium of nonprofit organizations, and 2,500 individuals said, yes, this is the necessary thing, and we expect our leaders in government to act urgently and decisively to put this in motion. That was heard, respected, and it was animating to our decision makers in Congress. On July 2nd of last year, Senator Cortez Masto, Senator Rosen, alongside Representatives Horsford, Lee, and Titus, drafted and submitted a letter to Secretary Holland saying, look, we've met with these communities, we've listened to them. we agree that something needs to happen and happen soon. And we're calling on you to get this mineral withdrawal action in motion. This was a huge milestone for the campaign. To have our leadership in Congress in our corner, even though this was an action taken by the administration, was really, really meaningful and gave everyone in the coalition a lot of hope. So that was July. We're getting closer to the present moment, which is now, right? Basically between July and the end of 2024, we continued to appeal to decision makers, take meetings with officials, continue to demonstrate that strong support from the bottom up, and communicate the urgency with which we felt they needed to act. And that brought us to this decision a few weeks ago in January. And so let's talk about what happens now and where we're at and how you can help. So as I said at the start of the meeting, on January 14th, the Biden administration followed through on our ask. They initiated this mineral withdrawal process through what's called a segregation notice. And Patrick, if I can call on you one more time, if you want to just kind of break down for folks, what is a segregation notice? And then how does this mesh into the longer NEPA process that will go into this withdrawal action?
Yeah, so a segregation notice is a temporary withdrawal of or segregation of these lands from the mineral entry. So from allowing for mining and mining claims for a temporary period while the broader mineral withdrawal is being evaluated. And so that evaluation is done through an environmental review process under the National Environmental Policy Act. And it's the same type of environmental review process that you would subject any other public land action to. So if you're going to permit a mine or a transmission line or do a management plan, all of that has to have an environmental review. Well, a mineral withdrawal also has an environmental review. And that means there's a public process, which Mason's going to talk about in a minute. And there's also going to be a comment process, a technical process where they're going to analyze the science behind what may or may not contribute to the decision on the withdrawal to come to that decision. But the first step is the segregation notice, which basically puts a pause on all mine claim activity long enough for that evaluation to happen.
Right. So as we've been talking about, this is basically the end of the beginning of this effort. We've now accomplished this. You're getting to this point of the segregation, 2 years for a new administration to conduct that environmental review and to determine whether ultimately a mineral withdrawal is warranted and to determine how much acreage of that public land should be included. So this is a very, very consequential process these next few years and will entail a lot of public involvement. So let's talk about that. Because you may be wondering how you can participate. Well, I just would say it is really, really important that the public does participate. The National Environmental Policy Act both notifies the public of what's going on and opens up channels for you to actually raise your voice. It is one of our most important kind of bedrock tools for ensuring that the American people can weigh in and instruct these federal agencies on what they want them to consider in terms of taking these consequential actions. And so robust public support is really, really important because it can help demonstrate to the agency that they need to consider and pursue this as a necessary action. And that's even more important given how this process unfolded, right? We had this whole thing initiated by an outgoing Biden administration. It's now firmly in the hands of the current Trump administration. They're coming into this issue with perhaps a lot less knowledge and awareness of the need for this action, maybe less understanding of the coalition of people that have been involved, and really just sort of an understanding of why this is about so many things. It's certainly about conservation. It's also about the long-term security of the communities of this region, right? They depend on this groundwater, just like the wildlife in Meadows, for every single use, from their domestic wells, their showers and faucets and tubs, to their businesses and everything above. This is one of the hottest, driest places on earth, and these communities cannot live here without groundwater. And so it's really important that the public shows up for us in this moment and voices these concerns and basically tells the new administration that we want you to follow through on this, right? We have all come together unified with this ask, and now it's your turn to make good on the commitment that was laid forth by the previous administration. So it's really consequential. This is where you can help us. you can submit a public comment, and you can do it today. And honestly, it's not going to take you more than a minute, probably. The BLM is accepting public comments on this action now through April 15th, 2025. And your voice matters. And I would just make an appeal too. We have a link here that Ashley is going to share in the chat to a form that we've built on our website. This form is designed to where it's going to be your comment is transmitted directly to the BLM's official email address, which we've listed at the bottom of the screen here. We have pre-filled in a comment with some of the concerns I just spoke about, the importance of water, all the different values, the significance of Ash Meadows, Death Valley. I would just encourage you, if you have time and have a heart for it, make this personal. Go ahead and edit that. We've made it editable on purpose, so you can introduce yourself, tell the BLM where you're from, tell them about your connection to Ash Meadows, explain why this is important to you and your community. That goes a long way in making sure that they're hearing directly from concerned individuals like you. So this is something you can do today. Please also share this with your networks, post it on Facebook, tag 5 friends and say, please fill this out today. It takes less than a minute, but it really, really matters. And especially matters if you live in this area. This is your chance to tell these decision makers what you think they should do in this action. So we've created an opportunity for you to do so. How else can you participate? Well, we also have, there we go. We have a big opportunity coming up, which is a public meeting. The BLM has notified the public of a public meeting in Amargosa Valley on February 27th. So just a little under 4 weeks, I guess. It's at 5:30 p.m. It's in the community center. We're going to have a pre-meeting rally at 4:30 p.m. Please come. There's going to be food, drinks. We're going to be handing out shirts. It'll be a really great occasion to come out, connect with other community members, and get excited about this, because it's a really exciting opportunity. At the public meeting, that's another chance for you to, say your piece. At these public meetings, the BLM often will open up public comment, and I think it's really powerful for them to hear directly from people face to face, especially those that live in the area. So please mark your calendars. This is a really, really big opportunity, and we hope you all show up with us and kind of in solidarity with especially the communities out here. They're really concerned, they're really excited, but they can't do this alone. And so we all need to show up for them on the 27th. And stay tuned for more information about that pre-meeting rally. It's going to be really fun. The last way that you can, oh wow, pardon me, computer is sleepy. The last way that you can help us is through a donation. This is a picture taken this last June. This is myself, Carolyn Allen. Hi, Carolyn, is on my right. That's Representative Stephen Horsford. And then to his left is Jimmy John Thompson, who is a council member on the Timbisha-Shoshone Tribal Council. And this was one of our fly-ins to Washington, D.C., meeting with decision makers, putting them in, face to face with the community leaders who were calling on them to help us achieve this big milestone. I'll just say too, through that whole 2024, basically from the time Rover submitted that project to now, to today, our role has been to try to ensure that the communities have all the information that they need, that they're informed, that they know what their opportunities are, and that we're basically giving them access to resources and power that they can then use to defend themselves. And so that's not a light lift. I'll just say that everyone on this call, as far as my board goes, had a big role in supporting this. We also had so many volunteers and people from the community show up for us. Many of you are here in this room, and so thank you. But I just want to kind of end with a pitch that your donation goes a really, really long way in these fights. And actually, if I can call on you, Louise, as our in-house expert, to just talk about the true impact of these individual donations on an organization like ours.
Sure, yeah, I'd be happy to. As I mentioned when I introduced myself, I run a consulting firm that works with nonprofits across the country. And, it includes small grassroots organizations, and it includes some of the largest universities, hospital systems, national nonprofits in the country. And I have to say, when I joined the board and saw what this organization was doing with so little, I've just never encountered an organization that can do so much with such limited funding. Up until recently, we had one employee. You know, you cannot imagine how hard Mason has worked on this campaign and other issues in the region. We do have a very skilled and engaged board, and the board makes stuff happen. It's a really amazing group of people. But we really can't do it without your support. And we believe in donor transparency. We want you to know where your donation is going and what it's helping us accomplish. So we put together this annual impact report. One of the things I just want to draw your attention to is that number of donations from individuals. So look, we've got 217 donors who are really passionate about this, and probably a lot of them are on this meeting today. Some of them aren't. You know, we do have donors from across the country. And I know that each one of those donors has some kind of special relationship with the Amargosa. I believe it takes a special person to fall in love with the Amargosa and to want to fight for it. So I just want to thank anybody that has given. If you have been meaning to give and you just haven't gotten around to it, Ashley has dropped a very convenient link in the chat. There's also a button on our website. We try to make it really easy for you to donate. And please consider becoming a monthly contributor. You know, that's what I do. I mean, it helps me budget and it helps me be a consistent donor and stay within my monthly budget. So everyone, you know, on our board can promise you that every dollar you donate will go a long way. And the other thing I just want to mention, you know, working in this field, the funding landscape for nonprofits is rapidly changing. So if you have been following the news, you know that the federal government is, you know, quite determined to cut federal funding to nonprofits. Now, as you can see from our fiscal year summary, we historically have not been dependent on government funding. But what that means is when it comes to the foundation grants, everybody that's having reductions in their federal funding is going to be competing for those same grant opportunities, right? And that doesn't mean that we're not going to aggressively pursue them, but we're going to need support from individuals. It's going to make a big difference. Grants also come with strings attached. They're often allocated to specific projects. And we need to be able to be nimble to be able to respond to emerging threats. So the more donations we have from individuals that we can use, you know, where we need it, when we need it, the better we're going to be able to fight back with some of these issues and protect the region that we love so much. So we love our donors. We'd like to get to know our donors. Please reach out anytime and, you know, let us know if you have questions about where your money's going, questions about what's going on with various issues in the region, and we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, thanks, Louise. And I'll just add that, like, it has been such a joy to see how many of those donations have come from local community members in the last year. And, you know, it means a lot to us too, just to send us an email now and then, cheering us on. We definitely need that too. So just opening that up, please do that. That really fuels us to keep doing the hard work. So with that, I'm gonna just wrap up, and then we're gonna take any questions that might be out there. I'm guessing there's more than one, but you can learn more about this by following us. I'm guessing if you got in this room tonight, you probably got there through one of these channels. But we are posting now basically every day on Facebook, Instagram, and X, keeping everyone up to date on these issues. We have a once monthly newsletter that you can sign up for that Ashley will drop the link into the chat for. And we're going to have more town halls, both in person and virtual in the future, because these issues are complicated and we want to make sure that everyone has a full understanding of the work we're doing and how you can help. So with that, I will say thank you. This is my email address. This is our website. Don't be shy, reach out, and we'll just kind of pause here and just see what questions are out there from our attendees tonight. Ashley, I think you've been keeping your eye. Do we have anything out there that we need to address?
Yeah, we have a question. It says, would existing claims also be halted?
Great question. Maybe Patrick and I can tag team this one. So strictly speaking, no. You know, this mineral withdrawal is putting a pause on new mining claiming. So it's just saying that there can be no new claims filed. Now, it doesn't mean that there's zero impact on existing claims. What there may be through this mineral withdrawal, especially if it's made, if it's you know, taken to the next stage for a 20-year period. Existing claims within the withdrawal area may be subjected to what's called a validity exam. And so a validity exam is kind of what it sounds like. It determines whether that mining claim is valid. And validity has a very specific legal definition relating to there has to be a marketable discovery of a ore that, there has to be a way to make that mining operation profitable for that claim to be valid. And so this is oftentimes can be a disincentive for companies seeking to develop claims in a withdrawn area, purely because this validity exam can take some time and can maybe take a couple of years depending on the BLM's capacities. And also the mining proponent will have to pay for those examinations. So, it sort of subjects mining claims in the withdrawal area to a slightly higher standard, and which is rightful, right? The BLM is saying, we're no longer sure that this use is conducive to this area. But strictly speaking, valid existing claims, as long as they meet both of those definitions, those may have a path towards being developed. And that may mean that even regarding Rover Critical Minerals projects, right, assuming they have valid existing claims, they may come back with a proposal, even if we're successful in getting these lands withdrawn. So we're not going to go anywhere. We're going to remain hyper vigilant, especially if that company comes back with another reckless drilling proposal, and we will do what is necessary at that time. But I hope that answers the question.
So the next question, it says, can Rover and other mining company challenge the mineral withdrawal?
So they can't really challenge it in as much as they can participate in this environmental review process along with everybody else, right? That's kind of what NEPA is for. It's both for us and the local communities and the mining companies. They will have opportunity here to submit comment just like we do. They're going to represent their own interests, as is right? This is a democratic process, and so we do anticipate that they will be involved. In terms of whether they can challenge it in a legal or technical sense, I don't believe so. This is an action being taken under administrative authority. But this is a shifting landscape. And Patrick, I don't know if you have any other insight on that other than what I shared.
I would just say that the mineral withdrawal itself is an administrative action subject to the National Environmental Policy Act. So what that means is the administration needs to show their work. They need to justify why they're taking an action like withdrawing land from mineral entry. Now, you do that through the environmental review process and you show the science and you say why this is a good idea. But theoretically, that could be challenged if some entity felt like an inadequate job was done in documenting the reasons for the decision being made. And the flip side is probably true too, right? If they do this whole process and decide not to do the mineral withdrawal, they're going to have to show their work for that and explain why they chose not to do the mineral withdrawal. And then people who think that was a decision unsupported by science could also challenge the decision from that direction. So, because this is a government action, it's subject to our normal rules and procedures that include challenging decisions.
So the next question, it says, do you have a local hydrologist who can testify for the Amargosa Conservancy?
As Patrick shared, there has been a hydrologist that has worked on the scientific studies for this campaign over the last year and a half. His name is Andy Zidane. He has extensive history working in the Amargosa River watershed. And he's truly using the best available science here. We don't need to get too deep into the weeds, but basically, our hydrologists are using the tools that are the standard tools used by the Nevada State Engineer's Office to analyze groundwater pumping. So we are using the best. He is using the best available science to back up these memoranda that have been made available for this. We hope that science is obviously will be admitted through the NEPA process. In terms of whether they will testify directly, I'm not sure. That's kind of to be determined.
All right, last question. Are all the 400 plus claims that Rover made near the border of Death Valley National Park existing?
So they have not turned up in the minerals land information system that BLM maintains. That implies they were never recorded with the BLM Nevada State Office and thus are not valid claims. There can be a lag. Now, those claims were filed last April. And so that would be a very long lag if the Nevada state office reported those claims if they were filed with the state office. But they have not shown up on the BLM system. So as far as we know, they're actually not valid claims.
So that looks like all the questions. I'll drop in the link for the February 27th event again for anybody that was having problems with the link. So all you have to do is just click on the link and it'll open up a new window for you. If you're having any issues, please contact us. There's Mason's contact there. And then information will be on our newsletter if you haven't signed up for that.
Great. Just thank you again, everyone, for hanging out with us tonight. We hope this was helpful and informative. We appreciate each and every one of you being here. Don't be shy. We hope to see you at a future events. Mark your calendars, February 27th. It'll be a show no matter what. So thanks again, and I hope everyone has a great night.
Thank you.